Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens...
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War and Pandemic. This is episode, 306, 29th of July, year of our Lord, 2020. So much going on today. I want to put up on the screen right now, we're winning victories all the time. Financial Times of London has a big story about, guess what? The Chinese bonds from the 1930s that the American Bond Foundation, Jonah Bianco and Jonah knows that we're going to have her on tomorrow to do an in-depth interview about the Financial Times, a very positive article in the Financial Times, and actually a professor at Duke University sitting there saying that these bonds are actually legitimate, and that will be an entire discussion with the new federal state of China, the whistleblower movement. You're seeing this momentum building of free people throughout the world trying to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable. In this segment, we've got one of the great other heroes, Lu Da. He is a broadcaster that also left China and started out in Vegas, is now on the East Coast, but a fantastic show every day. Comments a lot on the War Room and his commentary in his show, and just another hero. These patriots. What we're going to try to do is introduce you over the summer and into the fall of all these patriots that have left China, have come to the United States and other countries that are now bound together in the whistleblower movement, other movements. You see them on GTV, G News. We want to thank everybody there for doing live broadcast in Mandarin and also subtitles. But Luda, thank you for joining the show.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Luda is so important because the very first time Dr. Yan. So Dr. Yan, I want to turn to you now and get back to what we were talking about yesterday. And I want to say, Dave Bratt and the guys at Liberty University, the coverage on this thing over the last couple of days was explosive. And for our audience, they should understand, millions of views. One of the biggest thing was your interview. In fact, the Newsmax team, it's quite interesting. Newsmax normally takes the first hour of the show, and that's the one that gets all the B-roll. Last night, they reversed it. They put the second hour of the show up first, and the reason the second hour of the show was up was your interview. People are so amazed. So here's what I want to get to today, and you're going to be back in studio tomorrow. I'll actually be interviewing you from the vessel, and we'll get more into hydroxy. But one of the things you've told me, after you had the interview with Luda and you came to the United States, is why people in the United States are not focused on what the real problem is here. And the problem is this came from the CCP, this came from this lab in Wuhan. So I want to go back to, walk us through in detail why you're making this claim, given your position that this came from Wuhan, and every other aspect that people are talking about is some sort of spin or to take your eye off the ball.
Okay, actually, I came to U.S. and people still not realize about this situation actually based in China and origin from CCP regime is because first, very importantly, from the beginning of this pandemic, CCP government is trying their best to recruit even scientific field and like the organization as WHO to cover up all these things, and then they make up a lot of lies to mislead people who get into this field and trace their false information to the other side. So these things make people cannot find the real information about this. And actually, this virus is not origin from nature, not from the bat by itself. It is just a virus based on a bat virus, which is discovered and owned by Chinese Communist Party, the military lab.
Okay, hang on for 1 second. When you say it's not from nature and it's not from a bat virus, that means it was made somehow. Walk us through, what is your evidence for that, and how can an American audience understand that? Because it's being spun here by the mainstream media, that bat woman, they show her all the time, and this bat. Walk us through. What do you mean it's not a bat virus and it's not natural, it's man-made?
Okay, so this is not a bat virus directly jump into human, and this is a virus based on a bat virus, which is discovered by PLA and owned by them, and going through the engineering modified in the lab, and also going through the serial passage in the animals to make it focus on human. So that's why we can say it's very powerful for human being now. So what we can say is there are very solid evidence. Simply, I can tell our audience that it's like we check something based on our fingerprint, and for the virus, the fingerprint is their genome. So we can see all this kind of evidence from their genome. That's also why in the beginning of the outbreak, China government tried to postpone the publish of the genome sequence and even change it because they initially put some wrong genome sequence to NIH database. And these are the things later be reviewed by me through Mr. Luder's YouTube, and then they quickly the next day submit Bat Woman Xi Jinli's Nature paper, which was published on 3rd February about the RATG13 virus. And then the CCP controlled and influenced the whole scientific field, and WHO, these people, they start to tell people this is the real origin and mislead, drive the attention from the real origin of the virus to the RATG13 and build something based on that.
Okay, you're saying, I want to go back. You're saying they originally did not, or inadvertently, they did put up the genome sequence and then took it down, or they put up a false one, and because you called it out, they put up the real one?
This story is like this because on 12th January this year, the first time and people know this sequence because the China government and the other scientists upload the first sequence isolated from the patient in Wuhan to NIH gene bank database. And at that time, my husband, one of the established virologists in coronavirus field, and also WHO, the expert, he did the check, and then he told me that this is a wrong genome sequence. Which
okay, so hold it. So on 12 January,
yes,
you were told on 12 January, this is the wrong genome sequence.
Yes, my husband told me that because he did the research and he's also curious about the genome sequence.
He's also at the lab at Hong Kong and a very prominent virologist.
Exactly, he's in the same WHO reference lab and who is senior to me, and also the best helper for Professor Malik Paris and Liu Peng.
Did you think that was pretty shocking that when you talked to your husband and other scientists that they would not put up the correct genome sequence, that they would not give that to NIH to put it into their database?
Yeah, that's something very, surprised because we never thought the genome sequence should be wrong because it's like fingerprint. You get it, you upload it. There is nothing can be wrong like this. Especially my husband clearly told me that this is something very weird. The wrong things happen inside.
And I want to make sure that our American audience understands this. You're saying that would be that couldn't have been a mistake.
Yeah,
that had to be done.
No, it cannot be.
Why could it not be a mistake? Why would it have to be done deliberately?
So for the real motive, I think you have to ask the government, those people who control this genome sequence and all the things. But for us, we can understand it as 12th January, they upload the wrong one, which include some wrong information inside. And based on that, the virologist, the scientists cannot trace it back to the Zhoushan bat virus, which I mean the backbone for the SARS-CoV-2 owned by PLA. But one day later, 13th January, please notice that day is the day that the first overseas cases happened in Thailand. So that means people from overseas can also get a virus sample. They also can isolate it, and also people will see the problem between the wrong genome sequence and the real.
You're saying
genome
they would be caught in a lie. That this would be shown.
They can be. They know that because they didn't image their overseas patient come out so quickly. And there even no interval for this some mutant happen. So once the overseas scientists get the patient, they have the big chance to isolate the virus out. That's why on 14th January, we see the previous wrong genome sequence was replaced from the NIH database. That is the version 2, and they clearly mentioned the version 1 was replaced, which is very rare happen in gene bank database. And from that day, if you compare it, you can see among all the known genome sequence in the database and Zhoushan bat coronavirus, JC45 and JXC21, they are the one most close to the SARS-CoV-2.
Is the 14th January they put into the NIH, is that the correct genome sequence or still not?
That's the one kind of correct, because 3 days later, again, they uploaded the third version, which is a little bit longer than previous one. And I did check for some important protein. I have checked between the 14th one and the 17th one. I see it's kind of okay, but also at that time, I didn't finish all the comparison. So there may be some other wrong information, important things.
Are you also saying that one of the reasons this was changed was because your interviews, you started to go on Luda's show, the YouTube show, and started to talk about this? Was that part of the reason you think that they tried to understood that they were going to be outed, so they made these changes?
No, this is before. The 17th is before I get deliver the message through Luda's show. But what happened is we did that show on 19th January, Beijing time at night.
Yeah.
And after that, Beijing time 20th January, Professor Shi Zhenli's Bad Woman's paper about RATG13 is submitted to Nature. And also, this one is published at the same day on the same topic on Nature with Professor Zhang Yongzhen's one, who was the one first published the genome sequence of SARS-CoV-2 and said this is most closely to Zhoushan bat virus. And to note, Professor Zhang Yongzhen got punished by this paper and his P3 lab was shut down.
Are you asserting that this is part of a cover-up by the CCP and in conjunction with either the reference lab in Hong Kong and others at either WHO, etc., to cover up their tracks, to cover up their actual complicity in this?
Yeah, cover up and even more than that, because for the experienced scientists and you have the basic knowledge, you come back to see this virus genome is like the fingerprint, as I said, and it's not difficult for them to realize the problem happened inside. It's basically like the virus and become the enhanced SARS virus with SARS functional part and with some other lethal part. And this thing is like the cow has a deer's head and has some rabbit's ear and also have the monkey's hand. I mean, please tell me how it comes from nature.
And that is because you're saying it's not in nature, and that is because this is trying to be was this a gain of function? In other words, were they doing experiments to try to come up with solutions for SARS and vaccines and therapeutics? Or is this a weaponization program to try to build something that could actually be used?
I'm the one who working on the vaccine development for several years, and I can tell you this is definitely not for vaccine, for solution of the SARS virus. Briefly, this is like if you want to make a toy gun for the kid, and you should remove the bullet, you should remove the harmful part. But in this version, it's like you said, okay, I'm now making the toy gun, and then I put some sharp knife on that, and make some missile on that, and then I give the kid that this is your toy.
So you're saying that there's zero chance that this just came from nature and that this was a very well thought through program?
Even based on common sense, yes.
Okay, our guest is Dr. Yan. She's going to actually be back in the war room tomorrow. I really want to thank her. She's in Washington for a couple of days and giving a host of leading discussions, giving interviews, etc. It was a star turn at the conference for 2 days, because I think it's the complexity of this that it's tough to get your hands around. And you hear so much spin in the media. One thing that's very evident, and I think that you're going to drive this in this pivot, is that there has been very little investigative reporting on this. The West just wants to turn a blind eye to all this. All the big apparatuses want to turn a blind eye, but we do have, and I want to come back, Jack, to talk about, as we continue the interview with Dr. Yan, people are changing. In the Wall Street Journal, there's different articles. You're starting to see people from organizations that have not traditionally been anti-CCP, but have really kind of been, if not in business with them, going along in kind of this engagement process. And now I think because the evidence is starting to mount, people are starting to come back. Okay, Stephen K. Bannon, War Room Pandemic, Dr. Yan, Luda, the great heroic whistleblower, Jack Maxey, all of us are going to be back in a moment. We're going to continue our interview. This explosive. She defected from Hong Kong. She was the top researcher at the lab, running the lab, the P3 lab, the supervisory lab, reference lab for the WHO. She's now in the West. telling her story from Fox News to War Room Pandemic. We're going to be back in a moment with Dr. Yang.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. You know me as the My Pillow guy, but what you might not know is my story. I've spent years writing my memoir, and it's finally done. Before this terrible pandemic came upon us, I had already wrote, I dedicate this book to anyone looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. And I've always used mathematics to prove that God exists. In our lives, we've had things happen that are 1 in a million or a 1 in a billion, or we might say that's impossible. Well, when do we say it all has to be a miracle? My life has been like living inside of a movie, and in my book, I have pictures that are going to validate everything that you're going to read. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible.
Mike spent the last 7 years writing his book to share his life story. In this difficult time we are in, Mike's book will bring much needed inspiration and hope to everyone who reads it.
But now the game was over. The house had won. I was going to die right here on this deserted street, a small item in the news. American tourist goes missing in Mexico.
Call now or visit MyPillow.com to purchase What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO. Enter the promo code and you'll receive free shipping. Mike will also include a free $25 MyPillow gift card. Mike shares his incredible story of addiction, divine intervention, and hope. In his new memoir, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO, learn how Mike's 14 near-death experiences and heavy crack addiction led him from a place of total darkness into the light. Mike's personal stories of transformation remind us that with faith, all things are possible. Call now or visit MyPillow.com to purchase What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. Enter the promo code and you'll receive free shipping. Mike will also include a free $25 MyPillow gift card.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark.
Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars with laser illumination technology for just $39.99. You'll also get a protective carrying case, yours free. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight, just pay separate fee.
We'll even ship them to you free.
You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-788-1008. That's 1-800-788-1008. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Number one on the cloud and number one with entrepreneurs, that would be NetSuite by Oracle. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon, Bannon, to get your 7 action steps every entrepreneur should be taking during these times and get a tour of NetSuite, the best software with your company's $1 million or $100 million in revenue. NetSuite by Oracle. Breaking news. I'm getting tired of winning. We got the Financial Times doing the Chinese bonds. We've got the New York Times, and we can get the AVN guys to put that. We're going to have Liz Yor tomorrow. We're going to have Jonah Bianco tomorrow on the bonds. We're going to have Liz Yor on the Vatican. The New York Times breaks a story. Guess what? Chinese hackers been hacking into the Vatican. What Miles Guo has been saying for years now. Vatican's taking cash under the table from the CCP. That's why they cut this secret deal, because the CCP knows everything about the finances of the Vatican. They know everything about the pedophilia crisis of the Vatican. Liz Yor is going to be on tomorrow. We're going to be talking about McCarrick, one of the worst devils in the United States. This cardinal that's been basically kicked out of the church, kicked out of the priesthood. He's the negotiator with the Chinese Communist Party for years. An absolutely awful individual. Sold out the Catholic Church, sold out Cardinal Zen, sold out everybody. Now the New York Times breaking a story about Chinese hackers hacking into the Vatican. The Financial Times of London, huge story on these Chinese bonds, the American Bond Foundation. And now, to continue our winning streak, we've got breaking news from the President of the United States.
The President is quoted as saying he's looking into banning TikTok. So as we say, TikTok. It's coming, people.
Get your kids off of TikTok. It's CCP. They're getting all your information, all your data. President, we know he's a big fan of the show. I want to thank you, Mr. President. Ban TikTok immediately. I want to go back to Dr. Yan. And I realize we got Luda here, who's a great patriot and really a hero because of his broadcast. You think we're in the face of the CCP? We're nothing. You think Miles Grove's in the face of the CCP? Boom, he's the hammer. But Luda every day, just relentless. And it was you two coming together that really started this and started to bring this story out to the West. Before I turn to that, I want to go to this. Do you have up, Jack? There's comments for hashtag War and Pandemic in the live stream. Dr. Yan has become the hero of our show from the conference and now today.
Well, Steve and I were talking in the break that I think we've just lost our fan base to Dr. Yan. This is one of hundreds during the show. Dr. Scarlett Yan, thank you so much for your bravery and courage. Thank you for trying to save the world at the expense of your own safety. Dr. Yan is my hero. Dr. Yan is a superhero. Dr. Yan is a hero for the whole world. Salute to Dr. Yan. It's one after another, and it is really true. People, this is what courage looks like. She's sitting right next to me, and we really hand salute to a great patriot for the world.
Pull up also the Wall Street Journal today to really support Dr. Yan. Dr. Yan, you've got the article in front of you. I know you say it's not totally technically correct, but the important thing here is the Atlantic Council. The guy is not a fan of the anti-CCP movement, but even the mainstream media is starting to come to, and it's because I think of what you guys are doing to bring this word to the West. And one of the reasons people should think about this, even people who don't totally agree with the show. One of the great misses really here was about this virus in the summer. Remember, even Fauci and Birx and the mainstream media were all talking about the second wave, that it would all dissipate in the summer, etc. This thing has been, we're still in a surge of a first wave. And why? As Dr. Peter Navarro continues to say, and I support, it's impervious to heat and humidity. It's impervious to heat and humidity. Well, nobody would have thought that at the beginning. People actually argued the exact opposite. It was going to go away in the summer. That's why you could do these openings of the state, right? And then you had to worry about the second wave. Well, we're still in the burning inferno of a first wave. Why? Everybody got it wrong about this. Not if you listen to Dr. Yan, because Dr. Yan says you're thinking of it the wrong way. This did not come just from a bat. It had to be manipulated, and like she said, this is a virus that's got a head of a dragon, the arms of a monkey, and the feet of a whale. Right? It's a composite part. Exactly. You say it's like giving a kid a toy gun, but the toy gun's got an arrow on it, a rocket, a missile, and a big a round of a .45. What I want to do now, David Rifkin, by the way, who was going to join us, David Rifkin is going to be on tomorrow. David Rifkin, the great constitutional lawyer, is going to be talking about that. He's going to give us an exact analysis of this of the guys who put up the firewall and are suppressing the Chinese people, and now we know they're suppressing the conservative movement here and the Trump movement are up on Capitol Hill. He's going to give us an analysis tomorrow. Dr. Yan, how did you get to Luda? Because Luda's the very first individual to give you a voice in a platform that we all think. How did you get to Luda, and why did you decide to go to a guy who's streaming a live show of commentary about CCP every day?
Because I have listened to Miles Guo and Mr. Luda's show for a while, and especially since the Hong Kong moment, the China government tried to suppress all those kind of free speech about the truth. So I had to find out the reliable way to help me and support me to understand the situation, because I see the live broadcast in Hong Kong street and I see what is happening. But then the other side, from TV, from website, or controlled by CCP government, we can see we cannot see the truth. Everything is twisted, the wrong perception. So I really need some true voice to support me, to support my understanding. And their show actually make me understand more about CCP's darkness. And at that time, when I start to do the investigation and realize the truth behind the COVID-19. And also, I didn't see the response from WHO, and I see China government don't want people to know the truth. So the key point is I have to find a reliable way to deliver the urgent message to people, to the world. And at that time, you cannot trust government, you cannot trust the main media, you cannot trust anything else. But I trust Luda is the only one media because he's so strongly on the justice side and keep revealing the truth to people, delivering the right message. So I believe him. I think he can deliver the message to people because he will understand what happened and he will help it to go to the public. So, yeah.
And this was building up and basically on the 19th of January. The 19th of January, which would have been, correct me if I'm wrong, would have been around Lunar New Year. Lunar New Year should have been taking place, right? I know it was canceled, but so by January 19th, you knew that this was being suppressed by the authorities, by the University of Hong Kong basically lab, by the World Health Organization, and certainly by the Beijing CDC, the people that should have known better. This being suppressed. And so you thought at the time, I've got to get this message out to the world. I'll do it in Luda. Weren't you afraid by going on the show and doing the show and giving the information to Luda that your life could be in jeopardy?
Yeah, I know. The moment I know, when I decide to deliver this message to Mr. Luda, I know my life is in danger, life-threatening. And at any moment, even I just try to contact him, they may just catch me because, you know, we have the huge surveillance all over the world under CCP even. So the only thing I'm worried about is whether I can deliver the message before I get disappeared by CCP government. And luckily, I did it. And I was very scared, yes. So the day actually before his broadcast, several hours before, 19th January, Beijing time in the afternoon, there was a globally technical problem happened on WhatsApp. And at that time, I cannot send any message and picture. So I was in the library in the University of Hong Kong. I was so scared. I thought, oh, come on, CCP found me because I have already contacted Luda for 2 days, explain things to him and persuade him. So at that time, I just quickly remove my WhatsApp and install again, remove, and then turn to Skype. I leave all my real message, my photo, my working place, and to Mr. Luda, and I tell him I won't suicide. Once I disappear, so that means the government did something like they did to Hong Kong protesters every day.
Hold on, hang on. You actually told Luda, I'm telling you right now, I will never commit suicide. So if I disappear, they say I got depressed and I ended up being dropping off a building. I was thrown. It was not me.
Yes, because this is a word that all the Hong Kong protesters know, and they've been told this to their friends, their family, because the Hong Kong government, the policemen, they said, oh, these people died naked in the sea, or they suddenly suicide without waiting letter, but there is nothing suspicious. They suicide. So this happens every day in China.
Then this is the 19th of January. If you go back, your supervisor, if I remember the interview yesterday correctly, your supervisor around the 8th or 9th of January, sometime at the end of the first weekend, you were in contact with Beijing CDC, you were continuing your investigation, you were sitting there going, something's wrong here. And they told you about the red line and watch out that they could disappear you. Is that you were told this or this you had this discussion?
Yeah. My supervisor Leopold actually told me even before he assigned me to do the second investigation. He is like warning me and to be careful, if not you will be disappeared. And also when I feedback to him about the information, not only from CDC, also from China CDC and also Wuhan and other cities doctors, I told him and he again tell me, okay, be careful, and if not, you will be disappeared. Yeah.
When they tell you will be disappeared, what does that phrase mean to someone that's Chinese? When they tell you will be disappeared.
Oh, that means you even not exist in the world after a while. No one will remember you. No one can see your information. If they want to search you online, no information, and your family is shut up, or even they are disappeared too, and no one can remember you. They are not allowed to do that.
Okay, this is Stephen K. Bannon, War Room Pandemic. Dr. Yan and Luda, two heroes. You want to see what the face of heroism is, just see on our broadcast. These two, this is the fight of the 21st century. It's a fight for freedom. The only way America is going to be totally free, you have to assist in the freedom of the Chinese people. This is the apparatus. The Chinese Communist Party, oppresses 1.4 billion people. And in doing that, in that business model by the elites of the world, they suppress and take their freedom away from the American people. We're going to return in just a moment. War Room Pandemic.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. You know me as the My Pillow guy, but what you might not know is my story. I've spent years writing my memoir, and it's finally done. Before this terrible pandemic came upon us, I had already wrote, I dedicate this book to anyone looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. And I've always used mathematics to prove that God exists. In our lives, we've had things happen that are 1 in a million or 1 in a billion, or we might say that's impossible. Well, when do we say it all has to be a miracle? My life has been like living inside of a movie, and in my book, I have pictures that are going to validate everything that you're going to read. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible.
Mike spent the last 7 years writing his book to share his life story. In this difficult time we are in, Mike's book will bring much needed inspiration and hope to everyone who reads it.
But now the game was over. The house had won. I was going to die right here on this deserted street. A small item in the news. American tourist goes missing in Mexico.
Call now or visit MyPillow.com to purchase What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO. Enter the promo code and you'll receive free shipping. Mike will also include a free $25 MyPillow gift card. Mike shares his incredible story of addiction, divine intervention, and hope. In his new memoir, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO, learn how Mike's 14 near-death experiences and heavy crack addiction led him from a place of total darkness into the light. Mike's personal stories of transformation remind us that with faith, all things are possible. Call now or visit MyPillow.com to purchase What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. Enter the promo code and you'll receive free shipping. Mike will also include a free $25 MyPillow gift card.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx. Next. So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Pandemic. Why are we having so many wins? Why is suddenly the president of the United States talking about TikTok? The Financial Times is covering the Chinese bonds. Good Morning America is putting the picture up of the podcast with Jack Maxey's interview on hydroxychloroquine. You've got Chris Hayes last night saying, "Oh, the podcast had this thing. They're a real good source." Chris, we were covering this back in mid-January, brother, months before you even got on top of things, and your reporting has been suboptimal. Okay, we show every side of the equation right here. We are honored to have guys that don't think it's that big a deal to people that think it's the end of the world and everything in between. And we just want to know that Chris Hayes and the Soy Boys over at the Chris Hayes Show, right, was late to the party and done a very suboptimal job. Anytime you want to debate, we don't like punching down, but anytime you want to debate anything on hydroxychloroquine or how we covered it, always willing to. Notice you didn't get to any of the facts yesterday about it being a prophylactic. Tomorrow, Dr. Yan is going to join us back in studio, and she and Jack Maxey are going to actually talk about hydroxychloroquine and other issues related to this, and as a prophylactic and therapeutic. And you'll get to hear Dr. Yan's professional opinion on all this. And so I want to continue now talking about the show having an impact. And this is the reason. It's listened to by the trading desk. It's listened to by the political class. It's listened to by all the news producers, right? But most important is listen to the deplorables, the American Lao Beijing, the old 100 names of America, upon whose shoulder everything rests, right? And that's the power of this show. And really, the comments we're having today are quite extraordinary, not Jack?
The biggest comments that we're getting right now are, this is more exciting than a Tom Clancy novel. Who has the rights for the movie? I can't wait to see it. Dr. Yan is such a hero. And it is true. It really, I'm sitting here listening to this for the first time in detail, and I have to tell you, it's got the hair up on the back of my neck.
Listen, this is how the Berlin Wall came down. This is the Patriots and freedom-loving people in Eastern Europe and in Russia eventually freed themselves with a major assist from President Reagan, Pope John Paul II, Margaret Thatcher, the entire West. The freedom of the Chinese people is the single biggest event in the first half of the 21st century. The CCP is going to fall. It's not a question of whether they're going to fall or not. They're going to fall. It's just, does it happen quickly or does it happen in a couple of years? And you're seeing these brave people, and I think the reason that people are getting so involved and so engaged in this movement is they're seeing the decency and hard work and love of liberty that these Chinese nationals and these people are coming to the West see. One of the most moving things that's happened is the new federal state of China's protests throughout the world. We chose to start the entire conference the other day, not with Peter Navarro, who was up on stage with me. I talked to Peter beforehand what we're going to do. He says, you absolutely have to do this. We went around the world to all the whistleblower movement and to the new federal state of China activists in front of all these consulates, from Paris to London to Canada to New Zealand to Australia. You see them in the streets. In Houston, they were heckling the CCP workers, saying, get out of here, you guys are bad guys. They had the American flag, they had the flag of the new federal state of China. And what are they doing? They protest here. And if you look at Portland, Oregon, which are the Red Guards, who are Americans, Red Guards, cultural revolutionary, cultural Marxists, and you see the people, the new federal state here in Washington, D.C., were handing water, cold water bottles to the police who were out there to observe their demonstration and thanking them for being there to protect them and to protect the city. Different than the chaos and anarchy you see by the cultural Marxists of the new Red Guard in Portland. It's very obvious. The Alliance of Liberty entails the people of these oppressed countries. Right? They used to call it in the Great War against the Soviet Union that we won, it was called the captive nations. Right? It was called the captive nations. Remember, this is the unfinished work of the 20th century. The last major group of gangsters. And that's why I call him General Secretary Xi. And we know this upsets him now, but everybody in the U.S. government is calling him General Secretary Xi, not President Xi, because you're not a legitimate president. It's not a legitimate government. You lied about what you were going to do in 1949. You promised the Chinese people rule of law. You promised them democracy. You promised them land reform. None of that. You've stolen all their money, and with your collaborators and appeasers in the West, and this is not Steve Bannon, it's Attorney General William Barr, and 4 of those collaborators are up right now on Capitol Hill, right? And I hope today they get into this thing of China about what they've done to the Chinese people and how they've oppressed the Chinese people, and how somebody like Apple, woke Apple, right? That Republicans and certain people in the Trump administration kowtow to, woke Apple using slave labor, right? Using slave labor. Nike and Apple's products, to me, should be banned in the United States of America. Using slave labor in China. Woke Nike and woke Apple. That's all a head fake and a diversion. Their wokeness is a diversion. Their business model is based upon the back-breaking labor at slave labor, forced labor prices, cost in China. That's where their margins are so high. This is Tim Cook, the biggest phony in the world. The guys at Nike, biggest phonies in the world. Don't give me your wokeness. Look about the people who you're stealing from. And here's the thing with the establishment and the companies. It's all going to come out. The Chinese Communist Party is going to fall. There is no doubt. It's going to fall like the Russians fell. It's going to fall like the Nazis fell. It's going to fall like the Italian fascists fell. It's going to fall like the military junta in Japan fell. All the gangsters eventually fall. And here we got the weapons of information and tech. We got the of finance. Hong Kong could be the anvil. The dollar could be the hammer. We have all of that. It's going to fall. And when it falls, the Ludas and the Dr. Yans and the people they represent, the people that fought for their freedom, are going to demand an accounting. They're going to demand from Henry Kissinger and from Steve Schwarzman and from Larry Fink. Oh, yeah, all Republican donors. All the Democrats in business with them. All of you guys, Ray Dalio, all of it. All of it. Every penny that was laundered out of China, every penny Wan Xishan, every penny that General Secretary Xi, all the hundreds of billions of dollars laundered through H&A, a money laundering scam brought up by Miles Grove. They pulled the plug on the VOA live interview. Why? Miles Grove saying, hey, H&A is nothing but a front organization, CCP, money launderers. Oh, can't do that. Chinese ambassador doesn't like it. Let's pull the plug. Guess what? 100% correct. There's going to be a full accounting. Right now in the Wall Street Journal, we got guys in the Atlantic Council arguing Dr. Yan's position that, hey, you got to look at this lab in Wuhan. Forget the fresh market. Look at the lab. This is not Breitbart. This is not National Pulse. It's the Wall Street Journal. Why? Because the facts are on the side. There will be an accounting of everything. There's going to be an accounting of what happened with this virus, this weaponization of it. There's going to be an accounting of every penny that was stolen by the Chinese people. Lao Beijing is going to have their day. Everybody, and the people that the Attorney General of the United States call collaborators, the ones that the Attorney General of the United States call appeasers, the ones the Attorney General of the United States said, you better check the FAR regulations because you're unregistered foreign agents, right? Not just for any country in the world. You're an unregistered foreign agent for a totalitarian dictatorship that Dr. Yan says, hey, they can disappear you. When they use the disappear words, it means not only are you gone, your family's gone, any memory of you is gone. They disappear you. You are gone. This is what Orwell told us about. You no longer exist. You never existed. They disappear you. I want our audience, I want the deplorables to embrace that. They disappear you. Look at that hearing yesterday with Barr. Look what's happened on the streets of Portland. It's all inextricably linked. It's all one thing. It's to destroy the four olds. Old thoughts, old habits, old customs, old ways. It's to destroy the four olds. And if you're going to sit there and say, oh, I'm going to let them destroy them, but what I keep saying, if you want to see the bravery, look at the Chinese people. Look at Luda. Look at Dr. Yan. Look at all the people in the whistleblower movement. Look at all the people in the new federal state. You don't think you don't think when those people came to Washington D.C., you don't think they're outside the Houston consulate, you don't think when they're in every Chinese embassy, their photographs are not taken, they're not put up in some database immediately, and that their families are harassed, Dr. Yan's family, immediately. This is what a totalitarian dictatorship does. That's what we're up against. That's the great crusade. That's the great moral crusade. Mike Pompeo said it. It's about unalienable rights. Their rights come from God, just like our rights do. No government. Chinese government. General Secretary Xi doesn't deem if Luda and Dr. Yan and all the people in mainland China that you hear on our show on Saturday, that they have rights or not. Those rights come from God. And that's the high moral ground of this fight. We either going to win this or we're not. Right? If we don't win it, this is what a fourth turning's all about. You're in the middle of one. The other fourth turnings, nothing was predetermined. World War II was not predetermined. The Civil War is not predetermined. The American Revolution was not predetermined. This is not predetermined. The most powerful thing Trump has ever said in this entire thing, nothing is inevitable. Human action and human agency will win out here. And that's the human action and human agency you saw of Dr. Yan and Luda. Dr. Yan, first of Luda, it took courage to put her up. Because as controversial as you are, once you do that, you're essentially accusing the Chinese Communist Party of premeditated mass murder, which is all the blood of the hands of the 100,000 who have died throughout the world. didn't you think it's, hey, I'm crossing a line here that now I've always criticized the guys, but now I'm accusing of being mass murderers. That I'm crossing a line and I will be disappeared. Can you translate that, Dr. Yan?
沃德先生，简单的来讲，就是班农先生想知道，就是你当初把我这个消息爆出来的时候，有没有考虑到这个不只是一个传递消息的问题，这个还涉及到这个对中共的一个指控，因为它涉及到一个大屠杀的潜在的，当时是潜在，现在是已经发生大屠杀。那么这个事情对你来讲，有没有什么你自己会有没有什么顾虑？然后你有没有觉得这个会是一件非常危险的事情？你当时是怎么想的？
谢谢班农先生，这个。当时就是1月19号的这个严博士通过我们的节目传递的5个重要的信息。第一，在62例的时候是人传人；第二是大爆发，只有62例的时候大爆发；第三，中共隐瞒是疫情；第四，就是这个强变异病毒的强变；第五，就是这个它是来自中共实验室，而这个5件事情后来一一得到验证啊，这是最关键的。但是当时的情况下，实际上我们作为我来说也是非常紧张，因为如果说这个事情如果最终没有被验证的话，那就是也会面临很多的这种我觉得可能指控啊或者造谣啊这些啊。
So first, thank you, Mr. Bannon. On 19th January, when Dr. Yan first delivered a message to me, there are 5 points, which are all verified finally. The 5 points first, the 62 cases at that time, but it's already human-to-human transmission, and also there will be a big potential outbreak, and these are the strong mutant virus, and also China government CCP is covering it up about the truth, and then this is not from nature, it's from the PLA lab. So I know this is very important things. At that time, if I deliver the wrong message to the world, that means I will face to a lot of accusation and later a lot of problem.
Wow, impressive. Okay, we're going to return in just a second. When we return, I want to ask Dr. Yan specifically, because we'll continue this tomorrow, but about this, the WHO. You were at a reference lab, one of the Harvard of Asia at Hong Kong University in the reference lab. Why was WHO not on top of this? We're going to return in just a second with Luda, Dr. Yan, in a moment, a war and pandemic.
Do you have any idea how your mattress affects your body and how well you sleep? Is it too hard or too soft, causing you to wake up with sore shoulders, back, or hips? Are you uncomfortable because you're too hot or too cold? Now you can get the total body support you need and the better sleep you want with the new MyPillow mattress topper.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. When I invented my new MyPillow mattress topper, I made it to have everything you'd ever want in a topper. My mattress topper helps give you the support you need, helps relieve your pressure points, and regulates your body temperature for you as an individual. It comes with a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry the cover. It's made in the USA, and I back it with my 60-day money-back guarantee.
Go to MyPillow.com or call now to get your very own MyPillow mattress topper. Use the promo code and Mike will give you 30% off and 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free. Order now.
MyPillow topper delivers on its promise to give me a better night's sleep.
I can sleep all night through, and it's a miracle for me.
Mike's exclusive 3-layer design starts with a layer of MyPillow foam, providing you superior support and comfort. The second layer of transitional foam evenly distributes body weight and helps relieve uncomfortable pressure points for optimal comfort. Mike's ultra-soft outer layer is a patented temperature-regulating cover that helps keep you at your ideal sleeping temperature all night long. Unlike other sleep systems costing thousands, the MyPillow mattress topper takes comfort to a whole new level without any wires, remotes, or moving parts. Call now or go to MyPillow.com to order your MyPillow topper. Use the promo code to save 30%. When you do, Mike will give you 2 of his standard MyPillows absolutely free. That's right, 2 standard MyPillows free and 30% off your MyPillow topper today. Order now.
I personally guarantee it's going to change your bed into the most comfortable bed you'll ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Frustrated with heavy rubber hoses that always get tangled and easily kink? Introducing the Bionic Flex Pro hose, the super strong, super tough hose that's ultra light as well. Run over an ordinary hose and it'll easily burst, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose stays intact no matter what runs over it, because its reinforced drag-resistant commercial-grade outer polyester weave makes it tougher and stronger than ever. And its solid brass fittings are crush-proof too. Ordinary hoses kink easily and stop working, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose never kinks. It just keeps flowing strong. And while regular hoses easily get tangled, the Bionic Flex Pro hose is tangle-proof. You can get the 25-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose for just $19.95 with free shipping. But wait, order today and we'll upgrade your order to a 50-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose. Just pay a separate fee, and shipping is still free. Go now.
Call 1-800-313-8062.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
You've got a 10-year bond at 50 basis points. You've got trillions of dollars being added to the Federal Reserve's balance sheet every day. We are living in a time of uncertainty as the Alliance of Liberty comes together. I can tell you, we're in the middle of a firestorm. That firestorm is a fourth turning. In a firestorm, you got to look to precious metals. Now's the time to add precious metals to your thinking about your portfolio, your real estate, your stocks, your bonds. The best way to do it is, guys, with Birch Gold. Gold's about to reach all-time highs. I don't want to say it correlates between the time Birch Gold became a sponsor of War and Pandemic, but hey, just saying, remember, it's not a conspiracy, but there are no coincidences. Go to text now, right now, Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, 474747. They've got a 20-page report to look about precious metals in your portfolio, whether IRA, 401k, all of it are actually controlling and owning the precious metals yourself. Now's the time to think about gold. If you're thinking about gold, you must think of Birch Gold. They're the best in the business. I want to turn now to, we got a couple of minutes left. This is the last segment. The Wall Street Journal, and a guy that's on the WHO advisory board, a very prominent individual, right? Talks this piece in the Journal. We're going to get more into it tomorrow. Hope to get an interview with him. Talk to us about it.
And obviously, this guy is not coming from probably the same position as Steve and I. Served on the National Security Council under Bill Clinton. He sits on the Human Genome Sequencing Project for the World Health Organization. He's a member of the Atlantic Council. Okay, so this is probably not somebody we're playing softball with every Sunday. But he says it strains credibility.
This quotes the Wall Street Journal article. Read it.
This is quoting. He said, to ensure everyone's safety, the World Health Organization and outside investigators must be empowered to explore all relevant questions about the origins of the pandemic without limits. This comprehensive forensic investigation must include full access to all of the scientists, biological samples, laboratory records, and other materials from the Wuhan Virology Institute and other relevant Chinese organizations. Now this, denying that access should be considered an admission of guilt by Beijing.
Repeat that last line.
Denying that access should be considered an admission of guilt by Beijing.
He leads that part by saying to ensure everyone's safety. Where's the mainstream media? To ensure everyone's safety. What does Miles Gross say all the time? You have 150,000 of your citizens dead, and you're not pointing the finger to where the problem is in Beijing? It's outrageous. 72, to our colleague here who wrote that, they're not just going to turn it over. They're not going to turn it over. 72 hours. Give him 72 hours that they haven't turned over everything. They've given access to everything he wants. You drop the hammer on them. You sanction the banks. You sanction the individuals. You cut them off from the dollar. You sanction Wang Qishan and General Secretary Xi. You take all the money they've stolen from the Chinese people and you seize it. Attorney General Barr seizes it in the United States. The only thing they understand is smash mouth. Okay? That's what they've done to the world. Dr. Yan, are they going to willingly, knowing what you went through to find out what you found, and they said they're going to disappear you, do you believe what the Wall Street Journal called for, that the CCP will ever voluntarily turn over full access to the Wuhan lab?
Yeah, but I want to address another thing. It's not only related to the Wuhan Virus Institute. It's also related to all these kind of research institute controlled by CCP or influenced by that. I mean, even not only in mainland China, for example, in my lab, the WHO reference lab based in Hong Kong, they all controlled by CCP government, and they will do anything the CCP government wants them to do because they dare not to against their ratings.
Oh, hang on, real quickly. We got a couple minutes left. WHO, you're a WHO reference lab, which essentially means you were the supervising the WHO's eyes and ears into mainland China from Hong Kong to keep an eye on this. Was the WHO complicit in this cover-up, and to the best of your knowledge?
Okay, the thing I know is WHO and mainland government actually based on our lab in Hong Kong. It's like the bridge between them and makes them have more communication and better relationship to each other. So the WHO expert, we have several top experts in the world in my lab, and they should and they're responsible to report these things happen in China as a potential public health risk to WHO, and WHO should be responsible to tell it to the world on time, in time. And what happened is when these experts, I'm sure they know it because I directly told my supervisor and my husband, I told him, he directly told Prof. Mike Paris, but this expert did nothing, and maybe they also discussed with WHO, but final result is they decide to collaborate with CCP government and do nothing. And also the worst thing is later these scientists stand up to support the origins of nature theory to CCP government and also help them to do this kind of scientific lies and cheat all the world. You can come back to see how many wrong things, wrong instructions come from WHO since COVID-19.
You're saying lies, cover-ups, collaboration with the CCP from WHO, no doubt in your mind?
Of course.
Dr. Yan will be joining us tomorrow. I will be back on the flagship of the new federal state of China, but I'll be beamed in for this interview. Tomorrow's going to be another blockbuster. We're going to have all the tech hearings. Remember, yesterday in 5.5 hours, the Democrats did not ask Bill Barr one question about China. When he comes out and has this amazing speech last week that talks about what we're doing with China, not one question. Today on Capitol Hill, some of the Republicans, we're going to get to the bottom of this, are trying to use a head fake by saying, hey, to make us be able to stand up to China, we've got to keep the concentration of power in these tech companies. It's the exact opposite. These companies are all in business with the CCP. That is a bald-faced lie. The last thing we knew is more empowerment of these tech companies because they're not helping us in the fight with the Chinese Communist Party. They're in business with the Chinese Communist Party. It's outrageous to use that as an excuse. And so tomorrow, Dr. Yan, We'll bring you back. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I really want to tell you how much you helped for our Hong Kong protesters, for all the people who are against CCP government and try to tell truth to the world. For our whistleblower movement, you really give a lot of support, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Look, it's an honor for us to do it. You guys are heroes. You inspire us every day because it's the freedom of the Chinese people, the great event of the first half of the 21st century. And with the freedom of the Chinese people, guess what? Come the freedom of the American people. It's through your freedom we're going to get our freedom back. That's what this fourth turning is about. It's about oppressive dictatorship run by cultural Marxists or actual Marxists versus the Alliance of Liberty. You guys have thrived in the United States, and you're going to thrive more with liberty and freedom. Okay. Tomorrow, we'll be back. War and Pandemic. More victories. We're going to have about the Chinese bonds. We're going to have Elizabeth Yore in the Vatican about how the CCP's in business with the Vatican. All of it. Matt Gaetz is going to be on to talk about the hearing. Matt Gaetz wants to bring criminal charges against Zuckerberg, all on War and Pandemic tomorrow with Dr. Yan.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. You know me as the My Pillow guy, but what you might not know is my story. I've spent years writing my memoir, and it's finally done. Before this terrible pandemic came upon us, I had already wrote, I dedicate this book to anyone looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. And I've